Hello, hope you're doing good. My name is Pranav Rao, and in this video, I'll be solving a machine of HackTheBox called as Fluffy. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube right now, it means that the machine is retired as per the policies of HackTheBox. We can only showcase or share contents when the machine is retired and not when they're active. So, even nevertheless, you can learn and watch this video to be able to understand how penetration testing or penetrating into a Windows machine actually goes through. So, let's get into the challenge here without wasting the time. And reading through the description here, there's no much description other than the IP address and some information like it's a Windows machine and it's easy. They've given us the machine information. It says, as is common in real life Windows pen test, you will start the fluffy box with the credentials for the following account and provided us with the user credentials. Now, since I've already solved this machine, it's better because we can just stick to what exactly is supposed to be done instead of wandering around for clueless solutions. The first thing that I will do is go to the directory where I usually store my Hack the Box contents, and let's create a directory for our fluffy machine. And moving inside the fluffy machine, let's save this credentials what they've provided us. We don't know what this credentials is going to be used for and what is this going to be giving us or opening a door for us to walk into. So let's save it into the future use. Let me copy that and create a file called credentials.txt and dump it here. Let's also make it a little bit nice to see by saying this is the username. Remove these contents and call this to be the password here. I guess there's some typo. Password, that does it. X, Y, and enter to exit from the nano editor. That's good. Let's also make sure we are able to ping the target system. Our VPN is working good. Copy the IP address and paste it in here. Good. So we are able to communicate with the target system also. Now let's identify what are the open ports that this target system has for us, right? So let's do an nmap scan to identify these open ports. I'll be using some specific options like the -ss to specify I want to use a synchronization connect scan to perform a scan on this system. Then I also want the versions to be seen of those services which are enabled. Then also run a default script scan. Now, since they've provided us the information that it is a Windows machine, it means that probably it could be an Active Directory. Now, if it is an Active Directory machine or part of an Active Directory environment, we should also be able to identify what is the domain controller's domain name, what are the common name of the systems, and such information like that. So this is going to capture those banners and headers of those services by running some default script scans, and does also more than that, but I'm just giving you a gist. So it does that. So that's going to be beneficial for us. Hence that option is enabled. -vv to just get the verbose output so that we know if the scanner is stuck somewhere in between, we can pause it. And no, I don't want to save the output anywhere. With this, let's press enter and I will wait for some time so that we'll get some good useful output here. It is going to take a while for nmap to scan and give us all the information with all these options that we have specified it to give. So I will come back once the nmap result shows up on my screen. Okay, now that the nmap has shown its results, let's scroll up and look at what we have found from this nmap scan. Straight away looking at the services, we see port 53, which is an internal DNS server of probably a domain controller, and port 8080, the Kerberos authentication services running on port 8080. 139 is for the SMB share, and 389 for the Active Directory's LDAP server. So it confirms us that this is part of a domain controller, or in fact is the domain controller itself, since it is running the Kerberos and has an LDAP. It also has given us the information related to its domain name. And going through this, we also see the common name of the domain controller to be present here. With all this information, what we'll do is let's copy the domain name fluffy.htb, make sure that we can easily communicate with the domain controller by addressing to its domain name rather than the IP address each time, because that's more easier. I will edit my etc hosts file, which is going to enable me to modify the direction from IP address to the domain name. You can already see on my screen that this is existing. That's because I have solved this earlier. I've pointed down the IP address of the domain controller or our target system, which you can see here, to the address fluffy.htb, which we found from the nmap output, and also the domain controller's common name is also present there. That's just going to help us into getting the communication right with the domain controller. Now, moving forward, what we will do is, since no other services like the LDAP or the SSL certificate issuing services and HTTP are all present, but they're not something which would enable us to interact with the domain controller directly, or we need to go into further enumeration which requires other complications to be existing. Only then we can try to enumerate into it. The easiest way is for us to look through the SMB share from the port 1389. So that's the default port for any SMB share to be present. I'll be using a tool called NXC from NetExec that is going to enable us to enumerate and do some reconnaissance and initial scanning of the SMB services. We can use the option called as SMB here and then try to do some enumeration. That's what I'll be showcasing now through NXC SMB option, and then say the domain name fluffy.htb, specify the user. Now for the user, in most cases, the guest user is going to be default present in any of the AD service. That's a user account which is enabled for any guest users to log in or look at something in a file share. If configured in a wrong way or not at all configured to be secure, the guest user doesn't require any privileges or authentication mechanisms. What I mean is, it doesn't require a password to log in into any of the SMB shares. So I just want to make sure and see if there are any guest user authentication possible for this SMB share. That's what I am passing here with a blank password. Let's press on enter and see the response of the domain controller to see if it responds in a positive manner by authenticating our guest user into the SMB share, or does it reject the guest user's authentication. From this, we can see that we can log in as the guest user to the domain controller's SMB share without requiring any password, which is a good sign. So let's modify this and look at what are the shares which is enabled for the guest users that we can try to access, see, or log in and do some enumerations with it. So I'm specifying the option -- shares, which is going to list out all the shares associated or given permission to this guest user. So interesting thing that we should be seeing here is the IPC read file. So sorry, what I mean is the IPC file which is there, it has given a permission to read. Now, if you search what is the IPC share usually used for, it's something which enables us to look at the users who are present inside the SMB share, or it's not IPC in Active Directory. I don't want it in Indian Penal Code. Active Directory. So it's a feature which enables the users to be able to start or stop the services or list the users who are part of the SMB shares and things like that. Reading through, it's an admin interactive share that provides access to the named pipes for inter-process communication. Yeah, that's the full form of it, inter-process communication. And I guess there's some more information to it, but yeah, generally speaking, that's the command, or that's the service which is going to enable us into going forward, because we have the read permission of it. What I will do here is I will brute force for the RIDs to list out the users who are present inside this share. So I'll press enter, which is going to brute force for all the usernames that is present inside the domain controller. Let's give it some more time because there is something wrong with the tool or the network or the system. So let's wait for the output to show up. Okay, so the list of usernames has just shown up here on my screen. What we'll do is we will copy all these contents and do some filtering. The reason is because the contents what is shown here contains more than just the usernames. It has the domain name and their side names and things like that, which we don't want right now for enumerating ourselves into the AD server. So let's do some editing of it. So I will say nano usernames.txt and dump in all the contents what I just copied. Control X, Y, and enter. Now we will short it down using instead of nano, let's print this using cat username.txt. Then let's cut with the delimiter specify to the backslash, and then I just want the second part of it. That's good. Now we get the starting usernames, but we also don't want these kind of other parameters. So let's cut that too with the delimiter set to space, and we want the first part of that. We get it. That's a good thing. Let's copy this. I will delete the username.txt file and create another one called usernames.txt. Then paste this in here, X, Y, and enter. Now we just have the usernames with us. No, we also have these junk in between. Let's also edit that. We'll go to vim and username.txt, remove the SMB word, the guest word, enterprise. Let's have administrator. Let that also be guest. Let's remove all these domain word. Then the cert is also not a valid thing. Let's remove all these things. Yeah, so till DC0 and the dollar thing, I feel that's probably a valid list of usernames to be present. With that, we will exit from the editor by saying WQ, the colon WQ. I hope you know how to use Vim. So with this, we have the username.txt file with us. Now, what you can notice here is we see the user called j.fle, that file schema, or that's the I'm pronouncing. I'll be butchering its name. Let's call the mystery man. We have the mystery man's username to be present here. Also, we have the credentials of the mystery man, which is provided to us here, which means we can try to see if there's any file share enabled for this specific user. Let's go through NXC itself, SMB, then specify with the domain name .htb, go with the user, the mystery man's username, close the brackets and pass the password here. Let's copy the password. This time I was very careful. There's extra space. Let's remove that and press enter. No, let's also specify what are the shares enabled to this user. So shares. Pressing enter. Now this is going to list us what are the shares enabled for our mystery man, which we can try to further enumerate if there's something interesting here. Let's wait for the output to show up. Okay, with the output shown up here, now it's interesting. Now here we see more folders, which is enabled for the share to our mystery man. An interesting folder is the IT folder because that has the permission to read and also write in it. That's interesting. So let's connect to this file share using the SMB client and specify the domain name here, fluffy.htb. Also the IT folder, that's where I want to go and then look at what does our mystery man here have in that IT folder where we have the permission to even write some things. Let's copy the username, paste it in here, then also pass the password. Let's copy the password from here. Fluffy failed. That's a weird error. Let's try it once again. Oh, sorry, the domain name is wrong. FLUFFY is the right domain name. And pasting in the password. That's good. We get access to this MB share. So let's list out what are the contents which is present here. And we see a lot of files. It says everything and some version number, everything, something .zip. It's an archive of that. And the key pass. These are all the directories. We can see it from the option or the letter here, which is D. And this is the archive folder. One more thing that we see is it says upgrade notice.pdf. Now, again, you can download all these files and then go through it personally. But since I've already solved, I can say that the upgrade.notice PDF file is something which is interesting to us. In fact, yeah, that's what it looks to be interesting. So let's download this upgrade.notice, sorry, upgrade underscore dot notice, sorry, upgrade underscore notice.pdf file. I'm sorry. Let's download this file into our system and then exit from here. What contents do we have here? Let's create a folder called as loot and move the upgrade notice to the loot folder. Here inside the loot folder, we have the upgrade underscore notice.pdf file. Let's get the working directory of this file, copy the location. Since I don't have any default PDF readers in this Kali machine, I'll have to use the browser itself for looking at the contents. And we get something called as a VA report. VA report is a vulnerability assessment report given to an organization. If you are performing a VAPT or any just a VA assignment itself to your client, you'll be providing them with a list of vulnerabilities that you identified in their network, system, or web application, or things like that. We get a VA report of the domain controller here. Now they've nowhere specified it's the same address or anything like that, but yes, it's part of the same domain controller. I mean, we can even take a educated guess that this could be a vulnerability of any of these systems present in the organization, but it's present in this file share. We can take that educated guess too. But looking through the CVEs, what is provided through the VA report, it clearly becomes evident that this CVEs are part of any domain controllers itself. Now, I'll not go into reading what exactly each of these CVEs are, but nor was I interested even into looking at what these CVEs do. This one says NTLM has disclosure spoofing vulnerability. So NTLM is usually generated by a domain controller itself or through the communication between the Kerberos and the system. But interestingly, since the reason which tipped me off was there was no POCs or there was no exploits available to this one. Exploits, PLOITS. There was no exploits available, so hence I did not go much into looking at this file. Do we have anything? It's an advisory. That's fine. But the interesting CVE, which gave me a foothold into the system, was this CVE, which is a vulnerability in the Windows AD, which provides the NTLM version 2 of the hash of a vulnerable user. Now, if any user is vulnerable or has a misconfiguration to be using the older versions of NTML hashes, this is going to get us the hash of such users. Going through this one GitHub repository here, what is in this? Okay, this is just an advisory giving that. Yeah, opening this GitHub repository, we get a list of POCs which is available from the popular GitHub pages. Now, again, I'll not be going through all of them, but shout out to all these users. But mainly the GitHub repository which I'll be showcasing is from this GitHub profile. All credit dues to where it is supposed to go. I don't reserve any credits. Let all, show some love to them. Yeah, basically what this has been identified is that the Windows vulnerability specifically in explorer.exe allows us to receive the net NTLM version 2 hash from the victim simply by having the attacker extract a zip file. So probably that's the reason we also have the read and write permission in the IT folder. That's why we also sorry, that's where we also downloaded the zip file. I had been a long day, so little bit of mind going here and there. What I will do here is I will copy the GitHub's code, and they've already also shown us the usage of running this tool. We'll go one folder back and clone this GitHub repository into our local system here, the attacker system. And inside this, we get the poc.py file, which is also the one which will be running now. So the usage says we need to say python 3 poc.py and then provide a name to it. We'll call that as to be fluffy itself. Then we're also supposed to be listing out the attacker's IP address where it should connect back to us. So I will specify it, say if config tunnel tun, I guess UN0 for listing out my hack the boxes VPN connections IP address. I'll be using this IP, copy that and paste it there and press enter. So it says it has now generated exploit.zip file in our system. Now, according to the usage, we need to send exploit.zip to the target, and then you will have to use responder in order to receive the NTLM version 2 hash. Now we can get the target to extract the zip file. Boom, we get the NTLM hash. So the first step is that we'll have to set up a responder so that we can receive any connections, or it listens to any of the incoming connections and responds accordingly to it. So let's start a responder session here. Let's call it responder. I guess that requires root privileges. So sudo responder, and we also specify the interface. Yes, -I, and then tunnel 0 is going to be my interface where I want it to be listening. With that said, now we are just supposed to be extracting the zip file in our system there. So what we'll do is let's connect to the target SMB share using the SMB client like earlier. SMB client, then the domain name fluffy.htb, the IT folder, the username goes with, what's the username here? What is it? This is the username. Let's copy that, paste it in here. Also passing it through the double quotes just to make sure there is no error which is going to be caused. What is the password for this user? Yeah, this is the password. Copy that too, press enter. It's going to ask us for the password, paste it in, press enter, and we get the SMB connect there. Now what we'll do here is let's list out the contents. We just have some archive files and the PDF file. We'll use a command called put and say exploit.zip and download that into this SMB share, calling it the exploit.zip itself. Press enter, and it has put a file into the system. We can see the exploit.zip file to be present, and let's wait for the system to automatically extract those files and produce us with the NTLM hash. Come on, now we're getting everything. Okay. This is strange. This is honestly very, very, very strange. uh but anyway, whatever. So let's copy this. This is the hash which we are supposed to be getting anyway. Yeah, I mean, see, imagine if this was me trying to solve for the day one. This would be a huge error. I guess there's someone who is acting rogue as a player in this machine, or that's an error in my network. I'm not clearly sure. But anyway, What I will do is I will create a file called as hash.txt and dump this there. Dump the entire hash that I just got from the responder x, y, and enter. Now I'll pass it through hashcat to crack for this hashes. So hashcat and then call it the hash.txt file. Then specify the location to my rocky.txt file, fuzzing list, and rocky.txt. This is my custom location where I've saved it. If not, it's going to be under user, share, word list, and rocky.txt. Yes, so it's now trying to crack for the password. And what is the status of it? It's probably still cracking. It's good. I can see my resources being completely used. I guess probably in the background, Windows is doing its update. That's the reason the resources are used high. And we get the password here, which is Proctomos something. That's the user's password. And the user is P Aliga something is the user. What I will do is I have copied the password. I will edit our credentials.txt file and specify the new user that we found. That is p dot Akaila. Again, let's call this as the what I call the initial one. Let's call it as the mystery woman this time. So the mystery woman's password is with us. Cat credentials.txt, and we have the username and the password of this user. Now let's try to see if there's any SMB shared to this user. Fluffy fluffy dot htb, and the user name is this one, and the password is, let's copy the password, -p, press enter. That gave us an error. That's fine. We need to specify SMB here. You know what? I know that is going to happen. Let's look for the shares of this user. Okay, so that we will be looking for the shares of this new user called as P Agaila, Agaila, the whatever that is, the mysterious woman, and see what's possible here for us to enumerate into this system. Okay, for this user again, we don't get anything special. Like we have the IT folder itself, which is with the permissions of read and write, but nothing more than that. Now, I'm just stuck with this user. I have no idea about where else to go. That's where a tool called Bloodhound comes in. So, Bloodhound is a tool which is used for enumerating into an Active Directory environment where it using the credentials of the existing user. It connects to the AD. It's technically supposed to be installed on an AD server itself and then get a scan of the entire system. It's usually used by the defenders to analyze what are the system's loopholes, how is the groups shared between the users, and what user is a part of what group, and what computers are being used, and all such things like that. But we'll be using a tool called Bloodhound itself for enumerating further. Let's create a folder called Bloodhound. Now you might have to install Bloodhound with the Docker containers and things like that, but that's a whole different subject to talk about. But if it is installed, you can follow John Hammond's videos present on YouTube. You can follow that. I will link it down in the description to follow along John Hammond's video of installing Bloodhound. So inside the Bloodhound folder here, we'll be using a category or another tool of Bloodhound called as Bloodhound Python. That's a tool which is going to connect to the AD server and capture all those sensitive information which we want for analyzing the Active Directory environment further. And then we'll be using the Bloodhound's UI page to get a graphical view and just go around with it. So I will use Bloodhound Python and call it with the user that we just gained access to, which is this user. Paste in the username. Also, we need the password for this user. So let's scroll up and copy the password. Go with the option P and specify the password of this user. Then we also need to specify the domain name, which is fluffy.htb. Then go with the controller's IP address. Copy the IP address, paste it in here, and I want to capture all those informations which is present in the system. Now let's also run Bloodhound Python's help tab so that we know what commands are we actually using. So Bloodhound Python, and that will give us the help option of it. So -nc is for the name server, an alternative name for the server to use for querying. That's what we have presented there. And -c is to extract or cache in what information. That's what I believe it is. Or basically to collect what are the collection methods which we are supposed to be using. That's why I've specified a. Yeah, it's present here. So collection method. So which information to collect? That's what to extract is the option there. We want to collect everything that is possible. So press enter. That will connect to the AD server. But we get an error here. What is it? FLUFFY. Sorry, the domain name once again. FLUFFY.htb. Let's run that once again and hope this time with crossed fingers we don't get any errors. That's good. It's going to capture some information now. It's going to show us what are the computers present in the AD, what are the domain that is present, what is the forest, and all such information. Yes, it's started to print out on our screen. It talks about what are the domains, what are the domains in the forest, and the computers connected to it. It found 10 users, 54 groups, and found 2 GPUs, and all such information. It's going to print out in a JSON file in our folder itself where we have okay, we get an error. It says net BIOS connection with the remote host timed out. Now that's interesting. Let's delete all the files that we have got. uh, rm everything. What's wrong with it? Yes, I want to. And then let's run this command once again. Hopefully this time there is no timeout error. Let's wait for it to just print out the information. Okay, that did it. So we get the successful result from this. I guess there's something issue with the machine or this VPN server that I've connected with. Now listing down, we get the JSON file as I mentioned earlier. Let's open this file using sublister. Let's open this directory itself. And in here, this is the earlier one. So let me close that and open it here. Let's see if we have anything. Let's open and say pretty JSON format. Yes, that's what I want to do. So it gives us a list of things. So this is the computers which is connected. It is talking about some results. What are the name of it and the domain name, what information is connected on, things like that. Now again, with this JSON format, it's not which pretty much to see or read through, right? So let's see if we can see something. It has groups in here. So let's open pretty and format it. We can see what are the groups which is present, which is service account managers and what else? Is there anything else? There are more enterprise key admins and things like that. But it's very difficult for us to establish connections and identify more about these files. So what we can do is we can open up the Bloodhounds UI page. We'll call that localhost. Yeah, we have this. I'm not sure with the port number. Localhost 8080. I guess that's it. It's unable to connect. Bloodhound, the port number. I guess that's there. It says, yeah, the same thing is already there. Unable to connect. Okay, I have to start my Bloodhound. So let's open another terminal here and go to cd downloads and call it from here /bloodhound CLI and press enter. It says up. Okay, we need to say up. That's going to turn it on. Okay, so we get that to be started. We'll come back to our web browser and reload it. Still says error. What is that error for? No, that's working now. Okay, good. We'll have to log in with our credentials. Mine is already present in the web browser. I've just saved those credentials. So logging in, that should now open. Okay. I guess overall my system, the network, or everything is just spoiled for some reason. It's all lagging today. Let's go to the administration. And under administration, we are supposed to be uploading the files that we just extracted here. Now, since I've already uploaded earlier, those information is already present in this system. So I don't want to create multiple duplicates of those qualities or those files which I've already uploaded. So I'll continue, but you just have to upload those files. Now coming here, we have got the P Alga, or our mysterious woman's file in here, or the user account which we have compromised. So let's right click on this and say add to own, which means that we have the credentials of this user. So it has updated successfully. Now reading through the informations here, we get a lot of information, like what is the display name of this user, and what type of account is this being used, which is the user account, and do they have any admin counts and things like that. What is the distinguishing name, the common name, the all such information is there. I'm just touching the tip of the iceberg of Bloodhound. I can't showcase everything which is there, but what we interestingly see is what are the outbound connections, or what is this actually a member of, right? So this user, the P Aliga, or our mysterious woman, is part of the two groups or three groups in specific, which is the service account managers and domain users managers and groups. So it's part of these groups. Now, if this is part of these groups, what can we do with this? Do we find any direct path from here to the administrator? Administrator at fluffy.htb. Do we find any path? It says no path found specifically. Okay, so then we are just left with the user itself for us to go through. Now let's open this member of once again. And now the domain users are nothing but the users who are just part of this group. If you look at the inbound connection to the domain users, we see everyone is in some or the other form part of the domain users. But from here, we don't get to the administrator, right? There are a lot of things that we need to be going through. This is an outbound connection to it, or an inbound connection to it. We don't get any outbound connection to the domain user. So that is not often used to us. Let's go back to this user once again. There are better ways to do this, but I'm being a little lazy today. Uh, Looking at the outbound connections or outbound object controls, and we see we have the service account managers, which is part of the service accounts. Okay, now this is says it's own, but let's say it's removed from own. Let's assume that we never saw that it is own. Uh, we see that, okay, we have a service accounts group here. What can we do with this? Let's take a deeper look into this. What is this members of? So there are three members of this. Okay, let's also remove this things. Add to own. No, it has been, no, just remove this. Remove from owned, and remove this also from owned. Just go right, please. Remove from owned. Okay, so assuming again that we did not see what we saw, the service account is present here, and the service account is part of the WinRM and LDAP and CASVC and things like that. So they're getting connections back to it. What about the outbound connections to this? From the service accounts, we can access these three user accounts. That too with the generic right permission given to them. Now, what is this generic right? We get a small description about it from the right side tab here. It says the members of the group service accounts have generic right access to the user. The generic right access grants you the ability to write to any non-protected attribute to the target object, including the members of a group and service principal names for a user. So in general, what does this mean is that the generic right access gives us the ability to be able to modify the user accounts permissions or such abilities to be able to do something, right? What do we do? That is left to us. For that, they've also given us an examples. If you go under the Linux abuse, it says targeted Kerberos, which means we can target the Kerberos authentication to grant us to do something. Otherwise, we have an option to do shadow credential attacks, and that's what we'll be doing now. So, what is this shadow credential attacks? Let's Google that. Uh, Shadow credentials. Now, mind you, this is not my first recording of this video. This is the second time. First time that I was recording, I have messed it up because it was recording some other screen for some reason. Uh, so yeah, we have multiple links and blocks that we can go through, but the one which I find very interesting, which gives us some also hands-on holding to how do we abuse this shadow credentials. I guess this is not the block. This block talks about how shadow credential works and what is it and things like that. The other one which I like to follow is exploiting and detecting shadow credentials. Let's go to this. So here they talk about what is shadow credentials and how is it done and things like that. But the main part that I'm interested is that it gives all the description. Let's not focus on that. Let's go directly to exploiting the shadow credentials right here. Okay, we'll be following that. Now, generally, shadow credentials in a general term, just before we start to work on this, it is an ability that a higher authority user or the user who has the privileges to generate any credentials or things like that will be providing a fake credential to a designated user to be able to use that credential, the one which we created, and log in into that user. So it's in a sense where we'll be providing them a fake credential as a administrator to a normal user to for us to enable us into login into that user for some period of time or reset those things or permissions or exploit it and things like that. So that's what is a general gist of it. Now, how do we exploit it? They've given us some commands in here and things like that. We can also be following this blog post here, but in our scenario is little twisted and rounded. What we'll do is we'll open up our terminal back again here, and as a first step, now if you go closely back to the Bloodhound page itself, we are far off. This is our target now. WinRM SVC is our target. The reason is because the WinRM SVC is a Windows remote management user. So that user will be having some kind of privileges with them to be working with. So that let's consider that to be our target. From this user, how can we go to win rm underscore svc at the domain controller's name? And they give us the path, which is we are a member of this service accounts manager, which has a connection to the service accounts. And that service account is a part of the WinRM SVC. So first thing, we need to make ourselves be a member of the service accounts. Now we are just a member of the service account managers, and this has the permission of generic all, which means we can modify our privileges to be a part of the service accounts. Let's get that knocked in our way. Let's close all these unwanted tabs and services in the background and go back a folder back. Now to be able to do that, we need to add ourselves into the group. I'll just copy the command from my notes so that we don't waste our time and paste it in here. Now what does this do? It uses netrpc, that's a tool, and adds a member into a group called as service accounts. And what is that user? Is P Aliga. That is what we want to also add ourselves into a group. Who wants to be added? The user is specified here, and what server does this modification needs to be done is also specified that. So pressing enter adds the user P Aliga into service accounts group. Now we need to have the password of this user. So let's go to the top of our screen and somewhere try to find the password. Do we have the password with us? Yeah, we get the password. It's right here. Let's copy this and paste it in this. Enter. That will connect to the domain controller and modify our privileges to be a part of the service accounts. Now that's done. So we are part of the service accounts. Now let's follow back to the blog post, since we are like a member of the WinRM, like we are the member of the service account. So we literally are one of the members of this group, which means now it's just a lateral or no horizontal movement that we need to be doing. So let's follow this blog post that I opened here. Now, what is the prerequisite of it? It says the target domain controller above. The target domain controller must own its own certificate and keys. The target must have control over another account with the right permissions over that and things like that. That's okay. We'll be leveraging with this tool and this tool for exploiting the shadow credentials from a Unix system. That's what we'll do. Let's open these two GitHub repositories, and with the Pi Whisker, we'll be doing some modifications, such as generating a certificate for the user. Let's copy this code, then come here and say git clone and paste in the GitHub repositories link. By the same time, let's also use the pink init tools. Let's just clone it, but we'll not be using it till some time. So git clone and paste the URL here. So we have both the tools with us. Now the first step is an LDAP connection to the that is established. The credentials are sent over the network to the domain controller without the K flag. NTLM is used by default for authentication. Uh, they just did the first step immediately. What we'll do is we'll go through the steps in here, which is given by the GitHub repository itself. First, we'll make sure we are listing out, is there any existing key credentials already present to the WinRM user. Okay, let's go to the tool called as Pi Whisker and another folder inside that. Here we have the piwhisker.py file. We'll be copying this same command and let's do some small modifications to them. Copy that, paste it in here, and we want the action to list to see if there are any specific certificates already there. The domain, we need to change it from domain.local to our domain, which is fluffy fluffy.htb. Then go with the user, which is the user that we have here. Let's copy the user, paste it in there. We also need the password. You know what? Let's print it out in the screen here. Let's go back and say cat credentials.txt. Copy this. Go back here. Remove this. Enter. And then target. We want our target to be winrm_svc. Press enter. Let's minimize this a little bit so that we can use the full screen itself. This much is fine. So it says attribute MSD key credential link is either empty or the user doesn't have the permissions on that attribute. Now we have the permissions because we have set ourselves to be a part of the same group. So that's not an issue, but there is no key credentials already established there. So we will create a key credential to for our user. So let's copy this command. Let's paste it in here and do some modifications. Let's put this and call the domain to be fluffy dot htb. Then I guess these commands are just the same. Let's copy till here. No, the actions is going to differ. Okay, actions is going to differ there. You know what? Let's just type it out itself. P dot agila, and then password. Password, I'm not typing it. I'm going to copy paste it itself. Let's remove all these things and paste it there. The target again is our winrm underscore svc. Then the action is this time to add, and the file name we'll call that to be key. Right, that will do our work. Let me just open my notes in the parallel to see if that's going to be right. Yeah, and also we need to export it. So export and then call that to be pem. We have the same commands here, somewhere here. Or yeah, they've given an example with the pem. That's what I have been using. But anyway, having a notes is useful in such cases. Now let's press enter. That will connect to the WinRM user and then generate us some key credentials. Could not modify the object. The server reports insufficient writes. That's a problem with us. Okay. Is there anything error with our command? Let's just verify that's not an issue. And then try once again with it. Oh, that's wrong error. That's not what we are supposed to be getting. Let's try this once again with the command and try it. Paste it in here. Is the machine reset or such things like that? No. Okay. Press this command. We need the password. Let's copy the password from here. Enter. Yeah, that has added us. Now let's try running this command once again. Okay, we get that one now. Now they themselves say that you can request a TGT from this GitHub repository. So we have two files now, which is keysert.pem and keyprivate.pem file there. What we'll do is let's create a folder back here and call that to be key1 and say move keysert everything into the key folder. Let's go back and call that to be key1 and move everything there. Yes, that's good. Now in the terminal down here, let's make it divide both of them equally. Let's go back one folder and use the pink that tool for our enumeration. Now ls we have multiple files here. The first file that we'll be using is for generating a TGT, which is ticket granting ticket. It's going to be used by the Kerbos to authenticate ourselves into it. So we'll be generating a key which can be later be used for getting the hash of this WinRM user. We can log in by doing the pass the hash exploit, but we'll generate a ticket from it. So the command is here. We can use the same command. Let me copy it from this and paste it here. Before that, let's put in all the other contents. So Python 3, and we'll be using get tgt pinkett.py and specify the files here. We'll go back one folder called as key1 and give the location. It's not called as test. It's called as keysert. Is that not called keysert? It's called as keysert.pem and it's not taking it. Okay, let's remove that. Let's do it manually. So key1 and then call that as keysert.pem. Same goes with the private key here. Let's go back one folder, bring in the key and then call key private into the location. Instead of lab.local, we'll be using fluffy fluffy.htb. Then it's not the test user, it's p dot, oh no, it's the winrm. That's what we are trying to generate for. So winrm svc, and then modify it here too. WinRM underscore SVC is the user. Press enter. Hopefully everything goes right now. So it's trying to do a mini Kerberos and requesting for a ticket, granting ticket to be shared with us. And let's wait for it. Come on. The cross fingers. Let's hope it does the job what we are waiting for it to do. Come on. No, it says error with this. The clock skews too great. Okay. This error is nothing but an error between the time differences between my location and the domain controller's location. Basically, the domain controller is sitting somewhere else. In US is probably there because of the VPN connection. I'm assuming it's in US, but there's a small time difference what you can have, approximately 5 minutes of it. So we'll be using a tool called fake time for it. I have a friend of mine who has done an amazing blog about the fake time, so we'll be using, you can follow along with this blog post to be able to install a tool called fake time and then how to use it. But I'll just go with solving the thing here. So let's call it as fake time. Let's call it fake time. Come on, if my keyboard can do that. No, first we need to get to know the time of our AD. So ntp date and the domain, which is fluffy.htb. Does that get the time? Failed. No service. No. Okay, I'm very bad at this. -q, and now it'll do the job. So we get the time in here, but I don't need all the rest of the other things like my time and all those contents. So let's use the cut option to do some modifications. To Does that do it? Yes, it gives us the time here. It's the date and time. It's the date and then the time here. Okay, that's good, but we need to be passing it through the fake time. So fake time, and then inside the double quotes I will pass in another shell, and inside it I will copy this, paste it in there. Now that will take this exact time there. Now run this tool once again. Let's copy the entire command and paste it there. That should do the job. Now with cross fingers, let's wait for it to generate a key from the Kerberos service. With any movement now, with all the hopes on God, yes, we get the key here. So this has generated us a key for working with it. That's good. Now what else to do? Let's go back to our blog post here. With this, they're talking and they're explaining it in great detail what exactly this is doing. We can skip through all those things. Yes, we need to now export our. We need to be able to say that now if you're using Kerberos, use it for this user. So we'll modify this saying winrm underscore svc dot ccache. So we are exporting that into our local variable here, because that's the tool is going to be using our local variable to be able to identify what users to use. Now we'll be getting the hash. Okay, so we need to specify these commands. What we'll do is again use fake time just in case we have to use it. Let's remove all these part of the code. We don't need them. Let's say now get hash. What do we have here? Get nt hash and hyphen key. I guess that's the command. And copy the key which is generated here. Let's copy the key, paste it. Then the location of it, right? So fluffy.htb, fluffy. There is nowhere L when I'm even pronouncing it, but I don't know why am I typing in that. Okay, winrm underscore svc, pressing enter, we get the hash. That's perfect. That's good. Now we have owned this user too, because with this hash we can go anywhere else in the system. Let's add this into our credentials.txt file. Let's say nano credentials.txt. And here let's call it the username winrm underscore svc, and the hash is this hash. With this hash, we can just pass it and authenticate ourselves into the Kerberos environment. So catting the credentials.txt, we get the information here. Now with this, we can go to the evil evil winrm. I guess that's the right command. Yes, that's the right tool. So with evil winrm, we can now try to log in into the user and get our root flag, or the user flag, not the root flag. I'm sorry, the user flag. Let's just open my notes here for the right commands. Yes. So exactly the step. So we'll call it evil dot hyphen when rm, and we'll specify the interface. Sorry, the domain controller's IP address with hyphen I. Copy, paste it in here. Then the user, which is when rm underscore svc, passing in the hash. Let's copy the hash and paste it in here. Press enter. That will give us a session. It has established a connection to the remote endpoint, which is good. And we get the shell. So going back to the desktop folder here and listing out the contents, we see the user flag in it. Now we can say type user.txt and we get the flag in here. That's great. That's amazing. That's perfect. Okay, so let's exit from there. What else to do? Okay, now we have got a user's privilege, and we have compromised this user. Let's call this as add to owned. Okay, now with this done, let's call winrm. Do we see a path to go to the administrator? Do we see anything like that? Administrator. It says no path found. I was like, okay. Let's get back to the WinRMCVS user itself and look at what can we do here. It says it's a member of so and so things. The service accounts, yes, it's a part of that member. It also has remote management users. Now, the whole reason that I wanted to get into this user is because it has the remote management options enabled to it. That's why it becomes a huge target scope of area. I guess I did not say it earlier, but that's the reason I wanted to compromise this user. Okay, that makes sense. We have service accounts. So is there anything that I can do with the service account? Domain users, it's all the default things. Now with the remote management, I don't think so there's any other specific attacks that we can conduct without any other vulnerabilities existing. But again, going back to our service accounts and looking for what can be done, because we have generic right to all these users. Now LDAP is not a user that we would want to. I mean, we can't do anything much with it until unless to just do some service and communication between the certificates. But an important user, that is CASVC. Now this user is a certificate authority service. What does that mean is that this user has the permission to authorize authenticating service certificates. Meaning, if I'm this user, I can certify any other user present inside the AD a certificate for logging into it. I guess that's what it means, certificate authority service. Yeah, that's what it is. But I'm not able to find the right word that is used in the Active Directory terms. I'm just thinking of that word, but that's the user who has the privileges to do those things. So what we'll do is let's try to own. Like, is there any path that we can, if we own the CA underscore SVC user, do we find any path? It doesn't find any path, but I for sure know that that is possible by this user. There's an outbound connection. Let's look at what are the outbound connections for this. It has generic right to all those users. That's fine. Any inbound connections? Is there any direct relation to the administrator? It's part of the service accounts, and it's all again a clustered thing which is happening in the background here. Okay, let's skip all these things. Let's try to compromise the CS SVC user by following all the similar steps that we just did right now to get to the point of getting the hash. It's pretty simple. It's to run these commands once again, but just modifying it, calling the CA CVS CVC user. So instead of when RMCVS CVC, I'm sorry, SVC. I'm totally sorry, SVC. CASVC. Then the password, instead of password, we'll be specifying the hash, the hyphen H, and the hash just goes there. Not into that, into this. And the user this time is WinRM underscore SVC. I'm pressing enter. We'll be adding another ticket or a key for this. We'll be generating a key for this CASVC user. Okay, that's good. We have a certificate there and the private key is also there. Let's create another directory, go back to folders and call it as key2 and move the key everything into that folder itself, key2, and moved it there. That's good. Now coming down here back, what we'll do is we will first thing try to generate a ticket for ourselves by modifying this existing command which we used earlier. Let's clear that and call it as CA underscore SVC, and this two to be modified for CA. We have these files, we need to call it as key2 and another key2, then rest all is the same. So let's press enter. That's going to connect to the Kerberos system and then generate a ticket granting ticket key for us to work with. Okay, let's run this once again. Okay, we get the keys directly. Seriously, there's something going on with that server for some reason. So let's copy this ticket. No, we need to export ourselves, right? Let's export the content here to interact with the Kerberos system. We'll call this the C underscore SVC. Press enter. Now run the similar thing command here. Instead of WinRM, let's call that as the CA. Replace this key from what we found. Pressing enter, we should get the hash. That's good. We get another hash. Copy that and let's modify this credentials.txt file. The username here is CA underscore CVS and the hash is this one, X, Y, and enter. So printing out the credentials.txt, we have this user 2 here. Now I've owned this user. What can we do? Add to owned, right? It's the member of so and so things. That's okay. It's part of cert publisher, and that has denied product and replication groups and things like that. So here, what is this? This is the member of the group are permitted to publish certificates to the directory. That's okay. That makes sense. And this says this member is a group cannot have their passwords replicated to read-only domains. Okay, that's all the things about it here. Let's Google something. Let's Google what this user has the privileges to do, right? Okay, what we'll do is let's search for privilege escalation. That will be the right word to use. Privilege escalation, and look for something like that. Let's go through some blog post. Yep, this is the exact wiki that I found. So now with the privilege escalation, with this user, they have given all the description and information about it. But the one which we want to see here, have they specified it in the blog post? Nope. But what I will do is I'll just take out my notes itself. I have copied the link to this exact blog post. Let's first thing is let's identify what are the possible vulnerabilities that is present here. They're using a tool called as CertPy. That's the exact tool that we'll also be using right now. Let's try to look for any vulnerabilities. That's the tool which is going to be looking that looking at the possible vulnerabilities of any certifying authorities privileges, like is there any vulnerabilities while the certificates are being issued by so and so users and things like that. So cert, let me just copy and paste the command itself instead of typing that out from my notes. Let's replace that and put it here. uh, the command goes very simple. It says cert pyd find, and it gives the specifies the username along with their domain name and asks for the hash. Let's replace that with the hash that we found of this user and paste it in here. Then it is asking for the domain controller's IP address. That's what we have specified here. Then it's look for any vulnerable outputs and it's going to give us an output of it. It's a tool by the same user who has put out the blog right here. But let's run this tool and identify are there any possible vulnerabilities present inside this user. It says fail to connect to the remote registry. Service should be starting now. Trying again. Okay. Is that an error that we'll have to work upon right now? I don't know. For some reason, the entire time we're getting a lot of error. So let's wait for it to give some output. And here we go. So we get the output here. It says there is one vulnerability, which is ESC16. Now, I don't know what this is. So going to the Google here and then searching for it, we get a blog post, ADCS EC16 misconfiguration and exploiting. Now again, you can read through all the explanation which is given here, but I'm taking the opportunity to just skip it because I don't want to. Already the video is so long, so I don't want to extend anyone's time here. Let's directly go and jump into the exploiting and enumerating of this vulnerability here. So this is the same command which is shows that the system is vulnerable to ESC16 in the Active Directory. Now the first step is to update the user principal name. Now let me give you a small brief of what this vulnerability exactly does. Is that it gives us the user to be able to update another higher privileged user principal name. That's the name which is used for identifying any user. For example, if my name is Pranava Rao with no space in a domain controller, someone with the privileges and with this vulnerability existing, they can try to replicate that username, which is allegedly supposed to be unique. In theory, it is supposed to be unique. So if we get the privileges to exploit this vulnerability, what we can do is using the user's privileges to also be able to generate certificates, we can try to set our user principal name to administrator's user principal name, which is by default going to be administrator itself, and then generate ourselves an authentication certificate, just like how we did for the other users. Then change back the user principal name and log in ourselves as an administrator user. So I hope you get the idea about how this exactly works. So we'll copy paste these commands itself. Let's copy that and paste it in here. So it says, let's go from the beginning. It says certpy. Let's put it as certpy-80. That's the tool which is installed in my Kali. And the account is going to be our CA. So CA underscore SVC. Then the password. We're not using the password. We'll be using the hash. So -h and copy the hash from there and paste it here. Then the target is going to be fluffy.htb, fluffy.htb. Then the user principal name that I want to replicate is the administrator, and the user is me itself. Who's updating from whom, right? So it's going to be ca underscore svc update, pressing enter. uh Choose. Okay, I guess we need to put some quotes to it. Does this work? No, invalid choice. What is the hash? If I have to pass, oh, I need to specify hashes, not h. Okay, I'm sorry. So let's replace this with this command, pressing enter. That should, yes, that is successfully updated our user principal name to be administrator. Now we can verify that using the same command which is given here. Let's paste it in here and do some small modifications. Our user is ca underscore svc, and this time it's not the password. Let's just copy what is here uh, and paste it in there. Now the DCIP, let's go to the Hack the Box page. Okay, copy the IP address, paste it in here. And the user is the CASVC. CA underscore SVC. Pressing enter. Oh no, I don't want to do that. Let's modify this to C cert PYAD. Press enter. That should show us our updated user principal name to be administrator. Now earlier if you had checked, it would have been a different user principal name. Now once that we have changed our user principal name, it's time that we generate or request for a certificate as an administrator user. Let me copy this entire command and paste it in here and do the modifications once again. So cert py hyphen ad, then request for the DCIP. Let's modify that. It's already present in my terminal, so let's copy that itself and paste it here. The user is administrator, and this time it's again not the password but the hash. Now in the terms of administrator, it's v itself because our user principal name is identified as administrator. We'll have to use our hash, copy, paste it there. Then the target is the domain, which is fluffy.htb. CA is okay. We need to be changing this. This is the exact CA's information, which is I guess I've that in my notes. You can find it even through the bloodhounds and paste it in here. So it's fluffy DC01 CA. That's the do we need anything else? In my notes, I see the UPN is already specified. Let's press enter and see if there's any error which is going to be generated. It's going to request for the certificate through RPC. Let it do it. Okay, it wrote a file there. So if I list out, I can see a file called as administrator.pfx that has done it successfully. Now revert the UPN changes, the user principal name, back to what it was originally. Cert py hyphen ad. The account, what is the username is ca underscore svc. The instead of the password, it's the hash. Let's modify that. Then the target is fluffy.htb. The UPN, okay, we need to set our UPN back again. Now I have not shown it here, but in my notes earlier I had verified the UPN before I changed it. I'll just copy the same thing back from my notes and paste it here. It's CASBC at the DC01, then fluffy.htb. That's the user principal name which is originally given to it. Users, what we'll do is let's modify that to the CA underscore SVC. Update this thing. Press enter. No argument invalid. Oh, that has joined with the U itself option. Let's modify that. Give it some space. Press enter. Yeah, it has updated back to the domain controller itself, or the original user principal name itself. Now let's go back and now authenticate using the stolen certificate. Let's copy this command once again and paste it in here. So cert py -ad. Now using the certificate that we got, the administrator pfx, we'll be using that to log in, and we'll not be specifying who are we, like what user is logging in. We'll just log in. That file contains the information like who's the user who's trying to log in and all those things. But since we have modified the user principal name to be administrator, we'll be logging in as the administrator itself. So was there any quotes to it? No. fluffy.htb, then DC's IP address that we have it on our terminal here somewhere, which is this. Let's copy, paste it. Pressing enter, we'll be getting the hash of no hash. We did not even get the key. Oh, okay. The clock is an issue here. Let's use the same command, but before that, it's somewhere in this terminal, right? Let's use that itself, the fake time, to generate from the Kerbos a key. That should do it. Yes, it generated us the key and the hash that we can use for logging in. Let's copy this and say nano credentials.txt. We get the username, the administrator, and the hash is this one, x, y, and enter. The cat credentials.txt. Yes, we have the hash here. Now we'll run the evil. I'm sorry. Let's exit. We'll run the evil WinRM here, but now with the administrator and the h as the hash with it. I just copy pasted it and press enter. With this, yes, we have successfully become the administrator. We can say who am I, and that's going to say we are the administrator. Yes, that's good. So going to the desktop folder, we get the root flag. Yes, we see the root flag.txt there. So type root.txt and we have the flag there. That's good. So let's exit from there, and with this we have solved the machine fluffy. Good thing this is my second recording. Once again, to just tell you, I recorded it, but I messed it up by recording the wrong screen in my this Linux machine, and there were a lot of consecutive errors which are just popping up, so it got delayed. And this is the second time that I'm recording this machine once again, sitting for so long. So I'm already tired and a little bit foggy. So things were happening on its own like that. Anyway, if you did enjoy this video, and tell me your experience, okay? How did you feel solving this machine? Was it easy? Was it too difficult? And things like that. If you did enjoy this video, hit on that like button. And if you are new to this channel, hit on that subscribe button. That's a must to stay tuned in on all the future update videos that I'll be posting up on my YouTube channel. Also, comment down below how did you feel this machine was, and if you know any better ways on how we can solve this machine, please do let me know. I love to read your comments. Comment down below all the things that you want to share with me. With that, I would like to end this video by saying stay happy, stay smiling. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.